And that came on the 100th anniversary of the overthrow, right? I said that already. And I flew to Oahu, and with thousands of Native Hawaiians, we marched from Aloha Tower to the Iolani Palace. And that was such a turning point in my life. After that, I learned everything I could about our history, and I was blown away and couldn't believe it. And then kind of figured, oh, no wonder we didn't have it in our books, because it was very controversial. And so at that point in time, I was really interested in the sovereignty platform. And there were like several sovereignty movements going on at that time. I chose Kalahue Hawaii because, headed by Mililani Trask, because their platform I could accept. I could not accept total separation from the United States. Half my family would have to go. And this nation to nation relationship was very intriguing to me. I started right after high school. We couldn't afford to send me to college or anything. I was so fortunate to get a job at a one-man law firm right here in town in the 1970s, and after I graduated. And that began my 35 plus years as a legal secretary, paralegal, in that career. So these things piqued my interest. And so my involvement after that became very, very intense. And I'm not going to go through, I wrote a lot of things down, but I think it's just because you understand that I had no education that I felt would have helped me get to where I am today. Okay. What I had was life experiences as a little girl, as a teenager, and as a young lady, finding a job that I was intrigued about, which was law. In '68, when people are asking me, what do you want to do when you grow up or when you graduate? You know, I told my family, I want to be a policeman. I want to be a cop. And my family back then, everybody knew everybody in Kona, right? Small town. And my mom was terrified. She said, no, ask your father, because my dad and I were like inseparable from when I was born. So I was scared to ask him, but I did, because that's how much I really wanted to be a policeman, because I loved the law at that age. And I knew he was going to say, absolutely not. And so when I asked him, he paused and he just said, up to you. I went, what? And I said, really? I was so happy. My dad is so smart. He has an 8th grade education. He said, up to you, but remember, you are going to have to arrest your aunties, uncles, cousins. And I went, oh, okay, forget that. And that's how I went into the legal field, because that was not a choice anymore. So as I got involved with the sovereignty movement, before that, in 1970, imagine this, Kailua town was just a spot of light from Mauka as you come down. Everything else was black. So, oh, there's Kailua. And when I graduated, in the span of a decade, in the 70s, we saw Ali'i Drive develop at an unreal rate. They had all the hotels. They had the Kona Hilton, Keho Beach, Kona Lagoon, and Kona Surf all at once in that 10-year time. Not only did they build all those hotels, but it was a boom where they built out Ali'i Drive as well with condominiums. And so in the 80s, there was a lull, you know, everybody's settling down, and people that had farms, that did farming all their lives, they gave up their farms. And then they went to work for the hotels and service industry. So a lot of families gave up their long-standing farm, you know, to get more money and probably an easier life, right? Farming is very hard. So that was the 80s. When that happened, there was a break. Nothing happened in Kona. Everything was settling down. And then in 1990, while I was involved with Kealakekua, I was contacted by former council member Angel Pilago and former council member Karen Eoff, because they needed some help with a proposed development down at Kohaneiki that was going to actually take away the community's last surfing area and community gathering place. So the community, the Pash people, the Native Hawaiians, they all got together and supported the litigation surrounding the Pash and Pilago case. That took years. They also had to take it to the Supreme Court. And all these cases stem from, I'm sorry, I'm part of the government now, stem from governmental decision makers not following the law. And at that point in time, there was no public input offered back in those days. You could not testify. You just heard about it after it was done. So that was the whole issue that we were trying to address, because I asked the question working for attorneys and watching this happen. And I asked my mentor attorney, I said, don't we have laws that protect these things that we value, our resources, our native rights to access places? In that 70s era along Ali'i Drive, as a child, I went with my uncle, my uncles and my dad, and we gathered and we fished along Ali'i Drive, okay? When that happened, all the access points were sealed up. And I just couldn't figure out why, you know? And so that question became a real question for me. Don't we have laws? And I was surprised to find out, oh my, we do. We have a lot of them. But within the agency review and decision-making processes, never considered, never. And so our whole effort in the 90s was to engage ourselves in testifying and in at least 3 cases, suing the county at every level, contested case level, denied again, circuit court. The court sides with the county decision makers. Then it goes to the Supreme Court. And lo and behold, the High Court says, take it back and do what the law says we need to do. So 3 important cases, the Pash Kohaneiki decision, which I was involved by writing an amicus brief to support that cause and that legal issues about gathering and access and the right to be granted a contested case standing based on your Native Hawaiian issues. They were all denied. So the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the right to gather and access. And so that has been a precedent-setting case in decision-making. They teach it at the Richardson School of Law And after that, we had this huge development going on down at Ka'upuleho, 1,000 some odd acres from the ocean, right past Kona Village, from the ocean to the highway. Massive development. So we went and testified against it because they said that the county was going to approve it and then get the other agencies to review it afterwards. And you go, no, that's not the process. So those kinds of things is in 10 years is what we were advocating for. And the Kapa'akai case was so, that Ka'upulehu case involved 3 Native Hawaiian organizations. We came together, Kalahue Hawaii, myself and the vice po'o, Charles Young, Karen Eoff and Angel for Kohanaiki Ohana, and the Kona Hawaiian Civic Club. And before the Land Use Commission, we spent 2 years. We did the whole testifying. We brought expert Native Hawaiian witnesses. We brought to the table to testify the importance of making, before you make decisions, determine impacts on the people and on their traditions, especially in Hawaii. And so we had even Dr. Nalene Andrade, she's the head of psychiatry at Queens Medical, as one of our expert witnesses. We had Antipua Kanakaole Kanahele from Hilo. And by the time we were done, after 2 years of land use hearing contested case, we lost by 1 vote. and you know, and we were actually what we visioned as our enemies on the commission. At the end of 2 years, we were thanked by every single commissioner for what we presented, what they learned, and because they never heard it before. And so, but we still lost. So that made us take the next step and appealed it to the Supreme Court. So now, and we won. They remanded that decision back. And so they said that in that case, agencies cannot delegate their authority. What the land use was saying is, oh, we'll let the county figure it out when it gets to their turn to review this. And we're going, no, these things have to be determined when you make your decision, state. And so anyway, that was the big thing. They cannot delegate the authority when they're making important decisions. So that's also, those 2 cases that Karen and I and Angel were all involved in, they're being taught at the Richardson School of Law today. So it's and they have annual, they call it Passion Kohane and Kapa'akai conferences where they invite government leaders, government agencies to attend. And I think they're attending a lot now, so which is good, but it's still not perfect. It never will be. But just to until I think people, ordinary people, do not have to make government or bird dog the government.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. We're doing fine. So, you know, I'm not going to go into a lot of these other cases, but in 1990s, in that 10 years, in that decade,
Yes.
we had at least 8 cases that I was involved in that went in our favor. And so when when Angel asked me to work for him when he became council member. I was working for legal aid. I loved it there. I was a senior paralegal, help doing senior work, and I loved it. He sends Karen and tells me, Angel wants you to be his legislative assistant. And I'm going, no. No, it's only for 2 years, right? Coming from somebody that has a 30 some odd year background or continuous profession in the legal field, I'm being asked to take a job that might end in 2 years at the end of the election, right? I said, no, I can't. And she kept coming back. Then finally she said, Angel wants to have lunch with you. And I go, oh no. So I go over, we're sitting in the lunchroom, and he goes, so Maile, you don't want to come and work for me? I said, it's not that I don't want to work for you. I believe, it's only good for 2 years. I said, I'm a creature of habit. I've been doing the same thing for 30 years, and now you're asking me to, he goes, well, I understand that. What he said to me was so profound, and that is what made me do this. He said, well, he reminded me of my dad. Well, that's up to you, but all the hard work you did, fighting the government and testifying and suing them. He goes, you need to take that to the next level. We fought the government on the outside. Don't you think we should be fighting from the inside where we can affect change? And I went, oh my God, okay. I went, I get it. You're right, I get it. And so I started working for him. It was the best decision I think I made, because I really felt that you can appear and testify and talk till you're blue in the face, but government will proceed. And the only way they will stop is if citizens make them stop by either filing a lawsuit and making them stop. To me, my issue with that is it should not be a citizen's duty to find an attorney and prove that the county is wrong, incur expenses that they really shouldn't. And to me, that's what happened with us. We were so blessed that we had a pro bono attorney that believed in our issues and was so happy that he got to work with a group of grassroots activists, if you want to call us that he did this for these 2 cases pro bono. And all we had to do was feed him and just pay the filing fees. But now things are so costly that you will be deterred from even making it an issue past a public testimony, because it'll cost you money, which it shouldn't. So that's my, I wish I could do something. I've thought about it, but because it involves money, you can't create a law that reimburses citizens for attorney's fees. That's not part of the process. So, and it's not legal. So anyway, I'm gonna just stop now because I also sued the county for when I wanted to run for county council in 2010. They said I couldn't. They wouldn't give me an application. And when I asked why, they said, well, because I said, I live in the district. I've been in the district for 3 years, but you're registered at your old address. And I'm going, but what does that have to do with where I live now? you know that I'm living in the district for 3 years. But when I registered to vote back in the 1990s, I registered where I lived with my parents, right? So contact my my attorney friend again. He goes, you know what? That dual requirement is an old law. The dual requirement where you have to be registered to vote in the district and reside was from 1960. When they had county council, when they switched to a 9-member county council, every other county deleted that old law because it didn't really apply. As long as you reside in the district, right? But they wouldn't let me. They sued me. So that I couldn't run. And I went, wait a second. So my attorney friend filed an appeal to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, give her an application. So they gave me an application, but they wouldn't process me. And so, long story short, we went to court again, and I was finally allowed to run because that old law, the 1960 law that required 2 things, did not apply. It was, but you know, having gone through all of that, I mean, it basically is the reason why I'm here. A lot of people who know me all my life and they run into me and they go, oh, I didn't know you like politics. You're a politician. And I'm going, no, I'm not a politician. I said, I just want to be a community servant. I want to do community work. That's what I'm doing. But take the politics out of community service. I think it'll be a nice place to live. So anyway, I think that should do it. I've talked a lot. Well, on December 5th, this year, I will be 70 years old. I am going to retire gracefully, and I will spend my retirement doing all the things that I didn't have time to do. I want to get back into holla hat weaving, fishing with my husband, and most importantly, I want to be able to take care of my 91-year-old dad, who turns 91 next week, and who's living in the same house that we built in 1968. And yeah, and we, you know, that's my goal. Everybody go, oh, mayor? No. State legislature? So.
Yes, so Maile, thank you very much for your remarks, and we are going to take a few questions. I just wanted to point out that many of your topics and your activities throughout your life have touched upon League of Women Voters
Struggles. Yeah.
Not only struggles, but our goals and our objectives. You have dealt with stakeholder inputs into the democratic process. You've talked about transparency in government. You've talked about the legal process and how it can or may not serve your client's interests. But in any event, these are all objectives that the League of Women Voter promotes, and we thank you for your contributions to our democracy.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, folks, for all you do.
And Donna Obahu's League of Women Voters president for the state of Hawaii
Awesome.
gave me the invitation to give you a membership form.
Thank you, Donna.
Maile, you promised.
Thank you, Donna.
We've got that, I'm recording it.
I have the form.
Are there any other questions from our group here?
Oh, I'm not taking questions from Ms. Heck. No. No, we work together. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I got to know Maile on a really, well, I worked with her.
Tell us your name.
My name is Debbie Hecht.
Debbie, would you mind coming up to the?
Oh, yeah.
mic a little bit?
Here.
Oh,
Grab this. Hold that. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Debbie Hecht and had the privilege really to work with Angel and Karen and Maile and Brenda Ford back in 2006, I guess. Yeah, so I got to know Maile on a personal level, and she is very modest and has not really told us all of the wonderful things she's accomplished. So I would like to hear a little more about your great work. And I applaud you, Maile, for keeping the government honest, and that seems to be what I've been doing my whole life.
Right. And I thank you, Debbie. And you know what? I think there's so many. I don't know where to start, but I think I've covered adequately a umbrella of things. The only thing, okay, Debbie, I'm not sure if you're referring to this one. There was this one case, and this is why I really feel that my journey here was predetermined, was just predetermined for me, because things were put in front of me. Had I not said, whatever, had I not engaged, I would not be here today. One of the most important ones that for me was when I was working for Legal Aid Society. I get a call from a native Hawaiian family member saying, Maile, they're going to approve this condominium development on Ali'i Drive right in the Kealakekua Wahine Royal Complex, where Keolanahihi is. And I went, what? And she said, yes, the hearing is on Friday. And it was like Wednesday. And we need to find a lineal descendant who can get standing to contest this application. So I'm on the phone calling all of the families that I know are connected to Keakelani Wahine. And all of them said, I can't, I'm so busy, I can't. And I'm desperate, right? And so I called my cousin, my first cousin, who has blessed us with doing our native genealogy for years. So I call him up and I say, hey, Clarence, I need a lineal descendant to file an application for contested case hearing by tomorrow. And he goes, where? Kealakekua Wahine. And then he went silent on the phone. And I said, hello. And he goes, Maile, you're a lineal descendant. I went, what? I said, no way. He goes, no. I said, how can that be? And he goes, come to my house tonight and I will show you. My husband and I went down to First Lava, that's where he lives. And he said, don't get alarmed when you walk in our living room. So when we got in there, he had all these poster boards lined up with with genealogy lines. And I'm going, oh my God. He goes, no, you just look at this line, this red line. And he says, and this is how you connect as a lineal descendant of Kealakekua Wahine. So I wrote it all down. The next day, I went to work, typed up my request for contested case hearing, typed up my genealogy, and appeared on Friday, and recited my genealogy before the commission, and I was granted standing. And from that day on, I learned so much more about my heritage and how many generations, not only my family, but looking at that genealogy track, I see how everybody connects you know, the Kanuhas connect to Keolanahihi, because we come down on different, you know, ali'i lines. But that was such a, I think that was the high point of my entire activism, because at the time, Harry Kim was mayor. And I went over and I, you know, talked to him and his cabinet about the importance of this, and we need to purchase this and preserve this. So working with the State Historic Preservation Division and mayor, they actually split the cost of buying this property from this man. And so now it's not going to be developed. It's owned. It was purchased half with county funds and half with State Historic Preservation. So that's it. And that's, I think that's good enough. Yeah, Debbie?
We'll take
So-
one more question. Thank you, Maile.
All right. Yes.
Do you have any insight on present problems in the housing department? I'm sorry to bring it up.
No.
Okay,
no.
the question is whether or not she has any insight on the present housing problems.
Yeah.
Which one?
No, the criminal problems.
Oh,
in the
the-
housing
that one.
The criminal problems, okay?
Well, you know what? That is disgusting that that happened, because I think it really diminishes the people's trust in government. Okay. And not only that, I think it's the terrible part about that is it's regarding an issue that is so close to home for everybody, and it was taken advantage of. So to me, that is as low anybody can go. So, but for me, housing still, I can't figure out why affordable housing has to be connected to development. So that's a thing that I just can't understand or figure out. But there's multiple layers in that whole issue. You know, there's regular housing, you know, low income housing. And for me, my beef is housing for Native Hawaiians. And so you have Hawaiian Homes, who has land, but no infrastructure. And so now I think what has happened is they are developing subdivisions for Native Hawaiians, and they're awarding lots. But I come from a time when my dad was on the list for over 30 years. And when he finally got his pastoral 25 acres in 1986, the lands in Waimea were gone. So his 25 acres was down South Point Road. No water, no grass. And, you know, and to me, I think that's an injustice. So housing, there's so many things that impact our ability to provide housing. And I really wish that Hawaiian Homelands would go back to giving Native Hawaiians land that they can farm and be self-sufficient, because that is how they know how to live. And now when you have a subdivision, I'm not saying anything negative about the subdivisions that's being created for Native and awarded to Native Hawaiians. But you know what? The Native Hawaiians from the rural community, myself included, I will not live in a subdivision where I can't raise my own food, where I can't, you know, don't have land to farm. So you put people in a subdivision environment with no parking, no yard, you know, hardly any yard. You know, rural Native Hawaiians like myself will not survive in that environment. I know that because I wouldn't either. But, you know, there are Native Hawaiians from outside, you know, from Oahu, that actually will benefit from that. So great. We're providing Native Hawaiians with homes. And if you like that kind of living, that's great. But don't forget about the Native Hawaiians that are from the land and are from the rural areas. And I really wish that they would get back to giving land. Let them build their own house. Let them build a hale, which in county code allows them to do. You know, give them opportunities. Right now, there's still thousands on the wait list, but those are waitlisted for apartments or, you know, houses, homes, and subdivisions. And that's going to serve Native Hawaiians, but there's still that portion that really need the help. So, yeah, there's not enough time for me to do anything.
Yes, there is.
But you know, those are some of the real issues that I that's close to my my heart.
Who do you see taking your place?
I think you need to look at the website. I did endorse someone who's running in that race. So yeah, but I prefer not to disclose it in this arena. Yeah, but check the website and you'll see.
Well, we look forward to having you join us again in the near future, not only as a speaker, which we look forward to, but also as a member. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Really.